It's live.
It's live, we can tell.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I am Tristan Shagrex, and here with my good friend here, Kyle Eck. Trying a little bit something different here with the whole streaming concept with gaming and our good friend Magic the Gathering. We're going to try to do kind of a combination Cube podcast, Magic podcast, interactive kind of Twitch stream. For those of you that are familiar with Tom Gustafson over at MTG Cast, he was working on getting some live podcasting going with some call-in opportunities. It seems like Twitch is a perfect medium to kind of blend all these things together. You've got the ability to just kind of interact with your audience immediately. You've got live stream. We can bring up cards. We can bring up... There's cards. We can bring up games. We can do all kinds of stuff. And moreover, we can make a more traditional podcast. So if you're like me and find yourself with time to read these things, or listen to them on your free time, you can.
I suppose we could transcript them as well.
That's on you, obviously.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're already combining these things because we're lazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I really want to, take down a...
But this is forgive the lighting setup, forgive the chronic. We've got what we've got here for a test night as we're just trying to set it up, make sure everything works. So we're gonna talk Cube. Usually Eck here has been cubing with me almost since day one. I think you're one of the initial...
We made the first list. It pretty much got put together on our coffee table.
Yeah, many moons ago.
In a shoebox.
A
bunch of amazing, wonderful cards that are no longer even close.
Ragnar.
Oh yeah, Ragnar.
Angus Mackenzie. Lady Evangela.
Gwendolyn DeCourcy.
Yeah, I miss her though.
Mariki Rebarrett.
I kind of miss her a little bit.
Not as much. Gwendolyn DeCourcy, though.
I can bring that back tomorrow and I'd be okay with it. The problem is that the Grixis section...
She's competing with Nicol Bolas, which is kind of a tough...
And Cruel Ultimatum.
Yeah, that's a...
Like, the pro Cruel Ultimatum...
That's tough road to hell. No offense to Gwendolyn DeCourcy, of course, but...
Okay. So again, I'm still trying to figure this out. This is all very new to me, being so old in the eyes of technology. Where do I find the people who are speaking so we can interact with the live chat?
So the chat room is
right there. Okay.
As you can see, we have...
Or over there.
We currently have 4... They can't see this somewhere. We have all kinds of horrible pornography.
Plus
we have 4 viewers.
If you're listening to this after the fact, then it's going to be even more important to follow my physical movements as to where things are on the screen.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah.
But really, kind of where to begin is the big question. I think that we, especially in the past year, have done a lot of just arguing about how to handle Cube, what goes in, why it goes in, what works, what doesn't work. Most of these things come up after Eck loses a match, and he's just mad about something.
I do get mad. I have anger issues. It's pretty much the only thing I use email for anymore, though, is us debating Cube choices and sending giant lists of suggestions back and forth.
Yeah, it's been pretty much your fault. Oh, Kenny. Hi, Kenny.
Hi, Kenny.
Hi, Kenny.
Oh, it's Kay from Reno. Hey.
Now he knows which Kenny it is.
Yeah,
which is really important. Before then, you didn't know which Kenny it was.
I know some Kennys.
You know some Kennys. We're talking about Cube tonight, Kenny. Thanks for being here. One day we'll be so smart we can just Skype you in and we can just talk about Cube the entire time. But for now, thank you for being here in text form. And as people slowly turn slow mode off...
What the hell is slow mode?
I don't know what that means. Eck might figure it out. Eck's my technical expert. So...
It's like a 2-minute delay or something.
Oh. Again, this is a testing phase for us.
Yeah.
Eck will make it more live as he can. So for that, I
think it might just be something with my connection. I'll take a look at it for the next episode. So, unfortunately, everyone's going to be a little behind the times for this one.
Can't do anything about it. I apologize for that. So go ahead and spam the chat now if you have anything pertinent or not to say to us.
Yeah, we'll get to it when it shows up.
Going over Cube basics. I like that. Going over Cube basics, my Cube has just expanded to 700 cards. It is a mammoth of a cube at this point. It actually barely fits into the box that contains it these days.
Rich mahogany.
It is a rich mahogany. I'd like to thank Brian Federico, if he's still out there. Congratulations on your marriage engagement recently. If you're still doing cube boxes, I still know people that would like to have them. But a downfall of trying to get a nice custom box and not knowing dick about wood, no pun intended, you end up with...
you gotta let this one out a little bit, I think. Yeah, you don't know who you go to. You need a wood guy.
So,
Federico's
back to the important things at hand. Cube has just expanded for us. Obviously, with Return to Ravnica, there were so many great cards to add to Cube that it was really hard to not feel that Gatecrash was going to be the same way. And so for me, I kind of held back with Return to Ravnica coming out, and I was like, okay, there's a lot of great cards here. We can only do so many in this instance, in this moment. But when Gatecrash comes around, we'll make the whole cube bigger. We'll add multicolor cards.
Yeah.
There's going to be as many great cards for the 5 Gatecrash guilds as there were for the Ravnica guilds.
And I think one of the important things, this is obviously a big expansion, but anytime, even when new sets come out that we're not expanding the cube and making it bigger, but making changes, that you don't just replace old cards with new cards, but take the time to look at older cards that have maybe been in and have come out. One of the things we did in this update was we changed black around a lot, and a lot of those changes were in older cards, a different style of stuff. So I think it's important to never forget that there are, thousands and thousands of cards that could go in cube, not just the new 300.
True, and I think it has a lot to do with the way I handle updates. I try not to tinker the cube changes all the time. I try not to, every given week, we can have a discussion about lands, we can give a discussion about pretty much anything in the cube, and we might come to a 1, 2, 20 card conclusion of things we might be interested in changing or trying a different angle on. But if we made those changes all the time, people that cubed with us regularly,
they would go insane.
They would just not be happy.
Right. I think if you change the list too much, too often, I think doing it once every time a set comes out, and just doing everything all then, even with for example, in the Gatecrash Return to Ravnica update that we did, some of the changes were putting Oversold Cemetery and Oath of Ghouls in black.
Kind of jumping the gun here on these things, but yes, black got kind of this makeover. Over the years, the redheaded stepchild of Cube has been different colors, and now we are pretty much firmly in the age of black being the problem. And a lot of people have come to the consensus that they like the Pox package, the smallpox, Pox.
Yes. Aiken 13 chiming in with that one.
That would be Kenny.
Oh, is that Kenny?
You could just call him Kenny.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you again, Kenny. I know you're hearing this eventually, or too soon. Either way, a lot of people go for the Pox plan. Now, my problem with the Pox plan is it's still really black, heavy mana intensive.
Right.
Which was one of the initial problems with the black in the cube. I mean,
there's no end of awesome cards that cost triple black, or only use black mana, or quad black like Obliterator,
Mind Sludge, all those Odyssey blocks cards. Mind Sludge, Mutilate, Natuko Shade. These were all things that I think when I was first looking at the Invitational Cube to make Cube the first time around, I was like, yeah, I want to include these cards. That'd be a lot of fun. And then quickly problems arose where we would play heads up a lot, and those cards just you wouldn't be able to play them. And then you'd be stuck playing only black, and as artifacts, enchantments, as other card types got better, black got hurt again. Not being able to deal with Sword of Light and Shadow turned into not being able to deal with Sword of Light and Shadow and Sword of Feast and Famine, and Sword of Fire and Ice. All of them.
I think it's also a function of, if you look at the design arc of Magic as a whole, we're in an era right now where creatures are on a huge upswing, and the power level of creatures. So a lot of the new cards that come in are typically creatures, because they're just so many cards get printed that are just strict upgrades over older cards.
True.
So,
in a vacuum though, that would be good for black, because black can handle creatures.
Right, but black's removal is not the problem. The problem in black is that its guys are all awful, because it doesn't get sweet new dudes to nearly the rate of green and white and even red.
Okay, I mean, I'll give you that, but I will say it with the kind of the point that that's an easily fixable problem. We could print better black creatures. That's not what's stopping black from being good color in cube. It's the fact that you print a full cycle of swords in the last 18 months.
Right.
That's really bad for you.
I mean, that's certainly true.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've gone so far trying to adjust what black does that now I feel like I could put more spot removal back into black, and that would probably help it. I mean, I've gone as far as adding Oversold Cemetery, adding Oath of Ghouls, bring in more land destruction for black, and trying to find more hand destruction for black. I mean, just a month ago at most, we were considering putting in cards like Bog Down, just as additional kind of discard. Because I wish that black had access to more Stupor type Magic cards. that would help the color out a lot. And again, it's not a triple black spell. It's a single black spell.
Things that you can play in a deck that's black red or black blue. That's the problem with all the triple black cards is like you either can never cast them or you want all of them.
Yeah, and it's similar with the Contagion plan that is very popular. Like I don't have anything against the small pox Contagion engine, the creature sacrificing engine. I think that people like Sam Black and even the most recent Pro Tour has showed us the power of being able to sacrifice your own creatures and what they can do.
Certainly true.
And Black can definitely do those things. I mean, having Carrion Feeder in the cube is still good when you're not like infinitely looping it with something and going infinitely large. That card is just it's
fine.
It's a fine card.
And it's a zombie, which is mildly relevant.
Yeah. So for me, we're still working on that Black plan, and that was one of the things that happened with the Gatecrash update. I've been happy with Oversold Cemetery and
Oath of Ghouls.
Oath of Ghouls. You should bring that one up because that's the one that people don't necessarily know. Definitely in the month that since we put these cards into the cube,
though that's the one that gets red.
Yeah. I mean, they both get red, but even Oath of Ghouls has caught me. I have definitely played a match where I was like, well, I can't cast this yet and have it be good.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed. I drafted this deck when we made this change, like the Oath of Ghouls, Oversold Cemetery, like discard Sack Engine deck, and like Oversold was always fine because like at the very worst it just doesn't do anything. But like Oath of Ghouls, like you're constantly like, okay, well if I play this, then I can't kill their guy because I can't like load their yard up. I have to like work for it a lot more.
All of a sudden, killing a wall of omens means they get back a Rebel Arc. And you're like, wait a second, this is a big problem.
Yeah.
It's nice, though, because I like adding additional value to cards like Withered Wretch.
Yeah.
Dial
Spellbomb.
So again, like all of a sudden, there's this one change leads to another change. It's a chain of changes. And now with the Trinket Mage package that we brought in a few months ago, adding cards like now Spellbomb do kind of dual duty. Not only is that an opportunity to kind of get at the Reanimator decks, but at the same time you have another tool to make Oath of Ghouls more of a one-sided card. And that's been a lot of fun. I mean, for a long time I debated putting Oath of Druids into the cube, and then we kind of executed that plan recently, and it's been a lot of fun. But almost as much fun as making Oath of Druids happen is the real limited games of Magic where each player kind of gets to activate it and see what happens.
So Kenny wants to know what package we cut for Oath and Oversold, things like that.
It wasn't so much a package. Like, we just cut down the spot removal. And that's where we are right now. Like, I just cut Sudden Death.
Snuff Out,
Sudden Death, and the last card to get cut was Ultimate Price. So now if you look to kind of counterbalance that, you would want to add in back Ultimate Price. But those cards would come in if I was to cut the land destruction, which segues mildly into that topic.
Something you're unwilling to do?
I'm not. No. So when I first built when I first built the cube, I was having a hard time kind of filling in black. I felt like, black was where I was having difficulty filling in. No, to me, black is.
I mean, you're not under oath, so like
black.
Have this view
black is the color
revisionist history
that like green, black, and multicolor was for a long time. Like the cream of the crop cards are truly that. They are the best. But the drop off happens real fast, and all of a sudden you're playing weird cards. I mean, just recently I found like old cube list archives. So at one point, if we do this long enough, we'll have to go back and look at lists from
how far we've come,
literally 5 years ago, and see what cards we were playing. So again, in initial cube construction, I was like, oh wait, well I love Stone Rain. I have definitely won tournaments. I have definitely qualified regionals with Stone Rains in my deck. And I was like, okay, well I'd love to have that happen. Black's a little short on cards. If we kind of marry those two things together, and I consciously made the decision to make land destruction red, black, and red-black only, staying away from green cards like Ice Storm, because that's one of the first things people will kind of ask you about in Cube. You're like, oh, you have land destruction in your cube, like you endorse land destruction, so you have Thermokarst, Ice Storm, those kind of cards. It's like, actually, no, I don't. I mean, yes, there's the Plow Under, and there's, from time to time, there has been stunted growth.
I mean, Plow Under is almost just like a tempo card more than like...
Yeah, it's one of the things. That's a completely different conversation. It's a different animal.
Yeah.
But I've always been a fan of land destruction. That's really the key. I mean, I've gone as far as to put Rain of Tears
and Army Ants.
That's a very new inclusion right there. I'll make sure I point correctly.
Yeah.
Army Ants is the newest member of the Land Destruction family, kind of edging out Wrecking Ball for trying out something different. This was actually in my deck tonight. The Army Ants, in my third round of the draft, I was playing against what seems like the blue-white menace that we always have.
Yes. The boring, I call it ambient deck.
Yeah, blue-white control in Cube is very good. It does what it needs to do, and
it's just so boring.
Yeah, it's just not the kind of fun that everyone has in a Cube draft. Like, I've definitely drafted my Force Spike, Spell Pierces, Killer Spells, Force of Wills.
I did that 2 weeks ago, or a week ago.
Yeah,
and it was like
Moat, Elspeth, win the game kind of decks. But they're just you know.
I can play that kind of deck in like any form.
You don't make friends with Salad. That's really what we've learned here.
You don't make friends with LD either. Remember? No. Last week we had like
this was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
No, it was last week.
We had a kid who showed up for like the first time to play in our Cube League. He drafted a nice 3 or 4 color mid range deck, I think.
Well,
he had it was the first week of Gatecrash, so he had a sweet Aurelia's Fury Nicol Bolas deck.
Yeah,
he had all
he had all
4
the
colors
ones
that aren't green is a very interesting one. So his first round opponent was Red Black Land Destruction.
But he also it's not necessarily his fault. Like he had started playing Magic after Land Destruction moved out of 3 mana and into 4 mana, so he had never really been in an environment where you get stone rained before you get going, and
the beauty
Sinkhole,
of it
Sinkhole as the card is basically half price from anything he'd ever played with before, and it's just
this is a kid he'd heard of Sinkhole. The problem was that he hadn't encountered what I like to call the full package, where you have Ankh of Mishra, Army Ants, Sphere of Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Again, maybe you don't make friends with that deck either.
No.
But the point was that probably 4 points ago, we're just trying to make Land Destruction still a thing, and Red-Black is where I want it to be. That's its home. Again, it comes up against the control decks a lot, similar to how kind of Oath of Ghouls is its own engine against the control decks. Army Ants does something very similar. So tonight, in my third round, I got an Azorius Chancery and I got a Mazavith, both of which were very key on my road to victory. I
think it's also a fact of, if there's a minimum threshold number of LD cards you need for it to really be good, whereas your goal is to destroy all their lands and keep them down rather than hit their Mazavith or their Library of Alexandria, hit their utility lands, right? Because any aggro deck will benefit from having Molten Rain and whatever Strip Mine or Wasteland.
Yeah, Choking Sands is an awkward one, because it's another one of the ones that deals damage but can hit a non-swamp. So a bunch of the dual lands you can't hit.
Yeah, which is lame.
But heaven forbid someone plays Urborg.
Right. So you can totally get by with 1 or 2, but if you want to make the full deck, you need so many Land Destruction spells that you either have to have it in a second color, because you can't just make red 30 LD spells, because there just aren't enough mono red good enough LD spells. You have to work into the other colors, and I like it in black more than green, because green doesn't need the help. I mean, black is just...
And a lot of it was a decision that was made back in the beginnings of Cube, and as time went on, sure, we could have moved it to green, sure, we could have moved it out of red, or we could have made other decisions with it, but I feel like it's kind of managed to exist where it is, and it's been working. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on that topic, but the Red-Black has a Land Destruction, and Black is trying to do these new things with I really like Oath of Ghouls and Oversold Cemetery.
They're fun.
I'm trying to champion those cards for people in Cube as another angle to go with Black.
They're just such good value too. Even if you're just Liliana, no. Remember, so when I drafted that deck, I played against you, and you were playing the typical blue-white control deck.
Sure.
And all my guys were just value guys, just Liliana's Spectre and random discard guys, and just little stuff like that, and just being able to recycle those effects over and over and over.
Well, yeah, against control decks, it's obviously good. I mean, but you look at the card, and again, in the vacuum, you can see where it goes downhill real fast. In my opening hand, Oversold Cemetery may do nothing.
It's entirely
the entire game, it may do nothing. You could draw your opening hand with Oath of Ghouls. You could be playing against Gruul creature decks, and you could be like, well, I can just never cast this. Or worse yet, you think you're in a favorable position to cast it early in the game, and then you somehow get blown out by Gitu Slingers and Avalanche Riders and Gore Clan Rampagers and things that you just didn't even think about. And
That
there
guy's
it comes.
a card.
Yeah.
Rampager.
Yeah, it's a good
Okay,
card. Again, like, it's great timing for the Blood Rush guys. We added Slaughterhorn and Rampager, and while those interactions haven't exactly come up a lot yet for us, they are there.
Rampager is the one that, like, I've already seen play, is ridiculous. Like, that guy's going to be awesome all the time. Slaughterhorn is the one I think is going to take more convincing for people. Like, because on the surface you're like, okay, here's a 3/2 for 3 and a Giant Growth. And, like, neither of those cards are... Like, Giant Growth is in cube, but, like, it very often is a 14th or 15th pick. Which is, I mean, it's just, it kind of is what it is.
I like boon cards.
I know.
I like Giant Growth out of nowhere. It's harder when we're playing with the post-M10 rules.
Yeah.
And, statements like that only get more dated by the second. So. The thing with Slaughterhorn is it doesn't give trample. I mean, if it was a 3/2 with trample, I think everything would be different. And, again, one of the big things about Gore Clan Rampager is that now your sword hits. Now your GTA already hits. Now your Mask of Memory hits. Now your Hypnotic Spectre hits. Like, there's,
Ink Guys.
He's gone.
Oh, right.
He's gone.
No.
700
Ninja
cards.
V-Powers.
No
Ninja
room
V-Powers.
for no room for.
Ninja's still in.
Ninja's still there. Yeah.
My Ninja.
He could probably get cut. Ninja is probably one of the next blue creatures to get cut.
Yeah. I mean, blue is so weird. Blue is so...
It's not weird. It's just...
Well, it's not... I mean, it's weird to, like, talk about, like, cards to go into blue.
Yeah.
Because every time you're like, okay, it's a spell, it's competing with Force of Will, Ancestral Recall, Time Walk.
Good
like,
luck.
And then, like, if you're talking creatures, blue has the least creatures of any color in cube, so it's even harder,
Yeah.
It's like the options are so much slimmer in blue, like...
Again, for reference, this was something that we picked up very initially in Cube, and it's kind of stuck with us. And nowadays there's this kind of talk where it's almost like there's Cube traditionalists, which feels weird to say.
So speaking of that, we have a question in chat. What are your thoughts on powered cube versus unpowered cube as we transition into the Cube traditionalist thing?
I don't have a problem with unpowered cube. My cube was actually unpowered for the first couple of years it existed, and it just kind of ramped into we want to do more of Magic's history. And thusly, it just kind of turned into, well, we obviously want to play with all the cards. I think when I've talked about powered cube versus unpowered, using the MTGO cube as an example in the holiday cube season, it was important to touch on variance, and it's important to touch on games that you may or may not feel like you're actually in. And this week's Cube League actually had a really good example of that. In the 2-0 bracket, in the two players in one pod that were going for the 3-0 in the draft, you had one side of the table with Sol Ring and you had the other side of the table with Black Lotus. And 2 of the 3 games that were played, there was a turn 1 Lotus into Garrett Wild Speaker.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like...
Which was interesting because the untap ability couldn't be played at some points of the game.
No, does it say up to?
No, I believe it. Let's pull up.
Oh, we'll pull out.
I believe it says 2 lands. And this was on the other side of the table for me.
Yeah.
Because I was over battling trying to get my second win of the night, so I wasn't really...
Oh, no, it's 2 target lands.
Yeah, 2 target... Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's
again,
rough.
we have judges. We make sure we do these things properly.
That's rough.
But moreover, Power's just going to add variance. And to me, when you're not playing for big stakes, when you're playing for fun, even if it's like, a match where we're going to go 3-0 in a Cube League and those points are going to matter towards your Cube results.
Which we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah, you don't want that to always happen, but they're few and far between. It's still 1 in 40. You're not, those things are going to come up.
Everybody likes casting Time Walk. Everybody likes casting Ancestral Recall.
Yeah.
Everybody likes using Black Lotus. Like,
yeah.
The vast majority of good Cube stories start with, like, turn 1 Sol Ring, or like...
I don't know about that one.
But you know what I'm saying? Like start with, like, really awesome, like, power-based plays.
True. I mean, some of the, some great stories are, my opponent had he went turn 1 Hero Blade hold, and I didn't lose until turn 8. This week's story about the Garrix, that's going to be a good story. I mean, the Sol Ring deck won one game. There wasn't a Sol Ring Lotus battle in that particular game.
Almost losing with turn 1 Lodestone Golem was my...
You should have lost.
I know, I should have lost the game, but I didn't.
Yes. You had turn 1 Lodestone Golem.
Yeah, turn 1 Plains in mono white, Sphere of Resistance, Thalia, Lodestone Golem.
So, to really get back to the meat of the question, I like both if I had to choose, more often than not, I'm going to choose a powered cube because I'm big on Magic history. I'm big on kind of recapturing the experiences I had in my youth playing Magic, and it's a lot of fun. Unpowered cubes, I think they're actually a lot better for things like MTGO. Again, you're paying real dollars into that system to play with those cards and have those experiences, and you don't want to be cheated by Lotus into Ancestral into Lotus into turn 2 Consecrated Sphinx into. I mean, these are things that I saw plenty of during the holiday season, and on the other side of it, I had fun building those Storm decks, playing those power cards online, and doing it for a while.
They're great when you have them. They're horrible to play against, especially if you don't have any yourself. I mean,
so there's merit to both. I mean, I enjoy Pauper cubes. I enjoy the act of analyzing situations, using critical thinking, and trying to find other ways to do it.
The 1-mana cube?
The 1-drop cube is a fun one as well. But if I was going to say what's the Cadillac of cubes, what is the thing I want to be playing with most, it's my own powered cube, because to me that's the history of Magic. That's where we get to do all of these crazy card interactions, but we just don't do the incredibly degenerate things. There's no Tolarian Academy. There's no
workshop.
There's no workshop. I mean, talk about cards that are narrow. I mean, that kind of segues well into the big topic of how much is too much, or how big is too big, or how narrow is too narrow. And we've definitely over the years kind of come to the conclusions that cards like Mishra's Workshop and Tolarian Academy, they either do all or nothing. There's no middle ground. You're never like, oh, Tolarian Academy, well, I tapped it for blue once, and this other time I tapped it for 2 blue, and that was kind of cool, and I played it. So
usually it's like 0 or like 5 and wins the game on the spot.
Yeah, there's no middle ground. And Workshop is even more of an exaggeration of that, where it's like you have your opening hand, you don't have
a blowout every time, or you literally don't want it. And that's I think one of the important things about Cube is not just cards that are good in decks, or there's narrow for deck construction, but there's also narrow in drafting. You know what I mean? Like, if a card is too narrow, people don't draft it unless they have they've decided on that plan and stuck with it. Yeah. Stuff like Tolarian. If you open your 3rd pack in Cube, right, and you have a sweet deck and you might even be blue, and you see Tolarian, if you don't have any artifacts, you would just have to ship that card. And it literally will just go around the table until whoever has all the artifacts will just pick it up.
And if no one has all the artifacts, it's the 15th pick.
Yeah.
It's a good kind of conversation point for cards like Caracas. Definitely, especially in the early days of MTGO Cube, Caracas was one of those always. It's it's a Plains plus. It's you're going to play in your deck if you're in white, but you have no other reason to take it outside of that. And we've had that exact same conversation in our own Cube drafts. And I feel like we've really found a good balance. I mean, we added Mangara, if you want to pull up Mangara.
Oh, yeah.
Mangara of Corandor.
I'm just saying words now.
Yeah, and, adding a card like this, on top of having, obviously, Venserve and Dillian Click, very positive interactions with those cards. You also have cards like Mangara. Again, it's a little bit of white LD, which I'm into as well.
But, yeah, and I mean, just the sweet interactions with Mangara, Flicker Wisp and that bad boy.
Yeah.
I mean, Caracas, obviously, but, there's still enough other ones that are fun.
My point, Caracas. There are other cards like that in the Cube where you kind of look at it and you're like, well, where does this fall? Is this so narrow that it's only doing one thing? Alternatively, is it one of those things where it's just is it a Plains plus? I mean, Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth is another great example where it's is it just a swamp? Is it a fixer? What does it really do? And over the years, it's come in and out of my Cube, and to this day, I haven't really landed on exactly what it is. I feel like it's really nice to make your Maze of Ith tap for black.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
That's the dream right there.
It's really cool to tap your Wooded Foothills for black, because I'm not ready to crack it because of my Sylvan library.
I mean, I just think it's great mana fixing. If you need the black.
Explain why. So, again, a card like Urborg, now, does that mean that it turns on the Swamp's Matter cards? Does it mean that by playing it, now I can add Mutilate and Mind Sludge to my Cube, and they are going to be good? Or is it just kind of okay, well...
The problem is the cards that are like that, narrow plan cards, you can't just have one of them, because if it doesn't show up...
Right.
You can't draft the deck until you see it. And, like, if it shows up late, then it's too late to, like, really make that a thing. So for example, like, if Urborg, like, enables in, like, the cube build, Mutilate, Mind Sludge, whatever. If you open Mutilate, you're not going to take it. If you try and draft Mutilate, Mind Sludge, etc. .deck, and you don't get Urborg, you're either playing mono black or you're bummed. And if you see Urborg, then you're like, oh, now I have to draft this deck. Because, like, I see the part for it. If there were multiple other effects that worked kind of like Urborg, where, like, you could get the triggers that you needed, or rather get, like, the lands that mattered, without having to just play mono black. Because, I mean, that was the big problem with black for the longest time, is, like, it was mono black or bust. Like, the best cards were all, like, designed to be mono black.
I think one of the big problems was that black really got kind of, like, picked off by all the other decks. Like, oh, I'll take that Vampire Tutor.
I'll take
that Mind Twist.
Yeah.
But I think that what we're kind of leading to is the same kind of fallacy that a card like Slayering Academy has, where if you add all these cards where they kind of center around it, and you either have it or not, then it's no good. So that's kind of where we're kind of at. We're still on the fence about this card. I mean, we just since the cube just went back up to 700 cards, or went up to 700 cards for the first time, I guess, I was able to add Urborg back in because the land section increased by 10 cards, and I didn't feel guilt about it. I didn't feel suspicion about trying to add support for it. I wanted to give it some kind of room to play and see how it kind of worked out. And I didn't want to go too far off the deep end by adding a bunch of Swamp's Matter cards. I mean, again, over the years, played Mutilate, played Intico Shade. I don't know if there's any more extremes. We never played Mind Sludge, never played cards like Myra's Toil or Corrupt.
I mean, Obliterator was in forever, and that's, like, as close to...
Phyrexian Obliterator.
Yeah, Phyrexian Obliterator.
Yeah.
Like, that's as close as you're gonna get to, like...
Phyrexian Obliterator is one of those cards where I wish we could just play it as the playtest version, but...
What was the playtest version?
Playtest version was 5 Phyrexia Black Mana.
Oh, that's filthy.
I just can't let that one go. It's so gross.
Oh, God, that's insane.
Especially because if they had printed it as such in that standard environment with all these gut shots and vapor snags, because in theory, on turn 1, if you have 2 of these in your opening hand, you can just take 18 to the face with a swamp and lay 2 5/5 tramplers.
Yeah.
And then your opponent can, vapor snag you or
gut shot. Yeah.
Like, it would have been really interesting. So, as much as I don't like the concept of card altering, I don't like playing with things that aren't magic cards in Cube. Every time I look at Obliterator now, I always just wish it was...
Just draw on that one a little bit.
Yeah, it's always one of those things where it's like...
What would life have been like if Obliterator cost 5 Phyrexian Black?
How would that affect Cube life? How would that have affected that?
Doodly-doo.
Insert Wayne's World fade out here. Yeah, so again, we stay away from things like this. We just don't go there. We got kind of off topic on that, talking about coming back around to lands and cards that may or may not doing anything. And again, I love Swamp Matters cards myself. I mean, we both played Mono Black Control during Odyssey Invasion Constructed. Those were fun times. Having Mirari, casting Corrupt, just casting Soulburn and Drain Life.
Just Corrupt in the face, just all over.
I mean, those cards make cards like Necro better in Cube. I mean, they would make me feel less like I needed to include things like Zern Orb and Ivory Tower, since we include cards like Necro and Bargain. But you just can't go there. You just can't add Drain Life.
Speaking of non-real cards, question in chat, how do you feel about unglued cards? There are two
holiday cards.
So in terms of holiday cards, there used to be one in the Cube, which was Gifts Given, and it got cut because it was so backbreakingly ridiculous all the time. Like, that card, you never lost after you resolved that thing.
Gifts Given was really just bending somebody over a table.
Yeah, I mean, it was just put the wood to them.
A, look through their deck. B, take the 4 best cards out of it. C, put 2 of them into your hand and then play with them.
They don't have Gifts Given.
Yeah, there was a short time where we played Gifts Given. But I will stop quickly. I know the chat is really lagged here today, guys. We'll fix this in the future. But Norbert, we would like to run this show a little bit earlier. I know that for people that I know on the East Coast that would like to tune in, 1, 2 in the morning isn't ideal. We currently are trying to do this after Cube League on Wednesdays, which kind of runs until about 9:30, 10 Pacific. So we might move things around. We might end up slotting it where we run it before Cube League on Wednesdays. It's just always nice that we will go, have a draft, leave there, having played games with people, conversations will come up. It's fresh in our mind, and we'll come back and talk about it because what we've kind of found, what was kind of the impetus for us sitting down here to do this today was just months of trading email chains back and forth among the group we play in, conversations about card choices, and then usually leaving Cube League and then talking about these things over a drink at the bar or something. So we thought we would change it up and try to do this here. So that being said, Uncards.
This one.
Yeah, so the ones that are easy are the ones that act like they're real Magic cards that don't really extend or change the boundaries of the game that much.
You have people taking their pants off at the draft for Denim Walk or buying each other's
because of cards.
Right, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You don't need to encourage that behavior any more than it's already happening.
Yeah, telling people to put their pants back on in the draft is hard enough as it is. But so cards like Blast from the Past, and then of course Who, What, Where, When, Why, are easy to include because they're real Magic cards. They function within the boundaries of the game. They're not asking you to wear particular kinds of pants.
Or try and track things like Cheaty Face, like putting it into play illegally, or like half mana, or the cards where it's like it's like a discard where if you flick it.
The gotcha cards.
Yeah,
the cycle of gotcha.
Those are also they're so silly and
right. And those are one of those things where there's a little bit too much of an edge for people that would cube regularly. So, for example, if we played any of the gotcha cards and you came and sat down in Cube League one week and you weren't familiar with the fact that we play the direct damage one where someone says damage or whatever,
you're just gonna get hosed by it,
and you're not gonna have fun. You're not gonna like it. You might not come back, and that's what we want.
Like Blast from the Past, it's obviously kind of silly how many abilities it has, but it's relatively fair.
Yeah,
and all the modes come into play, and it's not really that jokey. It's actually very good.
Agreed.
Just 2 damage draw a card is pretty solid,
and then eventually 2 more damage.
Yeah, but late game when you're mad cycle madness buyback,
it does get a strange amount of reach to the red decks, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So that said, it's easy to include the cards that act like real Magic cards. Cards that don't act like real Magic cards, holiday cards. Holiday cards don't really.
Fruitcake Elemental.
It's okay. I mean,
it's just
Booster Tutor is the exception.
Booster Tutor we did have in. Booster Tutor, however, also required kind of erratic rules.
Yeah.
If you were cube drafting somewhere where you could not buy booster packs, you would make a booster out of cube cards, which was insane.
Way too good.
But if you were at a store, you had to purchase a booster with your own money and crack it to tutor,
which was fun.
So my favorite one of these was someone had booster tutor and their opponent had Library of Alexandria in play.
Okay.
And he had to destroy Library, he was just getting buried by it. So he's like, okay, I need to booster tutor for an LD spell. What set do I get? So we were had this mini timeout discussion, what set has the most common land destruction spells available to it? And I think we eventually decided on Odyssey or something. I don't remember.
There was a
what
consensus.
it was.
Not even I can tell you where that conversation kind of landed. I think I was just kind of a third party to that whole situation.
He got there, which was the important part of the story. But it was one of those things where it's Booster Tutor was cool because if you were actually had access to all the boosters, if you're at a place where they have a large stock, it's not just standard. It really rewards you for having a deep
knowledge
memory
of
for
the game.
sets.
Yeah. I can think of 2 examples. There we go. Maybe a little this way. 2 examples in which Booster Tutor was huge for me. Actually, no. I was only part of one of them, but they were good stories. One was when one was cast against a mono white or white weenie player with just a bunch of white creatures. A guy cast it. He cracked 4th edition. He found Cop White.
That's savage.
The rest of that game was not fun for one member of it. And the next one was I had lethal damage coming to me on the stack, and I cast it and I had to find a healing salve of some variety.
Did you go?
I somehow
landed Odyssey for Shelter.
Well,
no. Shelter and Embolden.
Shelter only hits creature. It gives a creature protection from a color.
Is it Embolden? Is the protection one with flashback?
You're using your mental magic skills.
Right? I know. I'm going.
Cards that draw cards and cards that have flashback.
Yeah.
We somehow ended up on 10th edition or something. I remember I opened a Mending Hands and then I subsequently won the cube game by casting mending hands,
Nice.
which was something that will never happen again, and thusly it was a story.
That one's going in the archives.
Exactly. Hey,
The Hall of Cube.
remember that one
stories.
time that we did that?
Up there with giant fish and,
That's actually,
one time I met Emilio Estevez.
The story doesn't even involve Emilio Estevez.
Emilio!
Which segues well into great cube stories. Let's talk about cube achievements.
The new
Cube
hotness.
League here. I wouldn't know how I would call it hot, but I would definitely call it something fun that we're doing. I don't know if you can pull it up. Can you pull it up?
God, I can try.
Eck will use the internet, and he will make things happen. While Eck uses the internet and make things happen, I'll continue to talk about something. I'm not really sure what.
We'll talk about cube achievements.
Yeah, cube achievements are much like Xbox achievements or many of the other kind of things that you do in games now. And it all kind of started when we were just talking about like funny stories of things happening.
Very similar to what we're doing right now.
Yeah, or just like crazy things that would happen, or wouldn't it be cool if, or one time I did this. And so with the league that we have together and we're expanding upon, recently we came up with the idea of having an achievements list. And with that achievements list, you will be awarded prizes, is it booster packs, is it store credit or whatever, by accomplishing any of said achievements. You could do a lot of different things to get said achievements. Oh, are we no longer on camera now? I can pick my nose?
Right, yeah.
Excellent.
You can take it.
Time for ball scratching time. Here we go.
So this is a list of the cube achievements we've come up with. I'll just kind of slowly scroll through them.
Yeah.
Most of them are... I'm not going to lie, a lot of these are pretty hard.
Well, considering that we pay out for them,
yeah,
in the event that they happen, they shouldn't be an everyday occurrence.
But I mean, a lot of them are also you have to get pretty lucky in just win a match with all 6 multicolored cards of a 2-color combination in play at once.
I mean, that's not,
you just have to get them all.
Ridiculous.
You have to get them all. Have sort of Fire Ice, sort of Shadow, sort of Feast of Famine, and sort of War and Peace on the battlefield at the same time.
Yeah, that one's hard.
That one's hard. Cast Bribery, taking Blightsteel Colossus. The amount of setup for that one,
Jeez, alright, well, okay, some of them are hard.
Some of them are hard. Some of them, however, are a lot easier, Resolve or Reanimate targeting Platinum Angel,
Yeah. And again, some of them are, difficult to achieve. Some of them are more of can you recreate things in Magic history that were very memorable.
Kai's World's winning deck.
Yeah, exactly. Get sets of circumstances that come from championship decks in the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
So that's pretty sweet. So that's fun. I mean, we posted it on Reddit a couple of weeks ago just to try to get more ideas from people.
Yeah.
I feel like we did a pretty good job.
I mean,
you can't get the spiked achievement with Mana Tithe because there is no Mana Tithe.
Yeah.
If you could also, is there a way to throw the link to the list somewhere?
Yeah.
Again, we planned this out real well coming into this. We have the cube in front of us.
Yeah.
But we don't actually.
We
need
can
that for
show
anything.
you that, hold it up. So, for the most part, I think the cube achievements also go into the Cube League, which is a whole another ball of wax.
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, people asking you what is Cube League? Oh, because you have auto card everywhere, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I'm looking at this cube list being man, this looks weird.
It's all italicized.
You should definitely show the people at home what you're looking at.
Okay, sure.
I assume they're at home. They could also be at work
you could be at work.
or...
So, I just linked in chat, this is the Cube list. This is a publicly available link. You can get it from TSG's Twitter. So it's just a spreadsheet of all the cards. So if you're curious about things we're talking about or whatever,
And Eck conveniently has auto card for all of his magical card needs, which I'm pretty sure you can find the info on how to make that happen for you over on Reddit.
Yeah, I mean, just search auto card anywhere for Chrome. And
sure. Now, if you go to the last update section, that will give you the full list of changes that were made with Gatecrash. Again, I have had people in the past, and I don't want to be as facetious as to say that there are people out there hanging on every word of cube changes that I make, but I do know there are people out there that I know and I communicate with regularly that do try to make sure the list stays the same that they use at home that I use. So I try to be pretty consistent on making these updates and making it very easy for people to see.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's that.
Yeah. So again, if you have any questions or again ideas or feelings strong one way or the other about that, you can find it there. Again, you can hit me up on Twitter. Well, pretty much 24/7 about those kind of things. I'm always interested to hear it. We're always trying to make the Cube a much more exciting experience. And again, with the league, we make sure that we set aside time to have a larger draft for it every week.
So for those who haven't heard TSG talking or reading or anything about it, we're attempting to have a proper league format for Cube drafting. Whereas, right now and in the past, okay, we put out the bat signal, everybody show up at this place at this time, and we'll Cube draft to be fun.
For the longest time, when you cubed, it was just kind of like
in between rounds of BTQs.
No, I mean like usually when you lost at BTQs. Let's be real here.
Yeah.
And what I found with going to the game stores, especially ones that we'd frequent, is that not everyone's going to be kind of wanting to approach, and. Right now we get 8 to 16 players in Cube League, although the way it's structured, we hope to get a rotating cast. The way the league point structure works, you'll be getting like max points 3/4 of the month, and you like your point. Like
it's kind of set up like similarly to how like other league events are run, where it's like the first couple of matches you play are important, and then if you have the time to play a ton of them, they are worth less. It's also part of the problem with Cube, unfortunately, is that you have to bring the thing everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's an availability thing. Yeah. So like we get 8 to 16 people on Wednesday because that's all the people we know who can make it.
Right.
Ideally, everyone would get to play Cube all the time, but we don't have 30 copies of this thing lying around.
It's really, I mean, what's really interesting to me is the rotating cast of people that have come through. It's not like the same 8 to 16 faces.
No.
I mean, just today we had some kid who was just visiting his older brother who was going to UCSC. Just randomly from Studio City, California, and come and play with us.
Yeah.
Never. And this wasn't like an old kid. I'm talking like
he couldn't have been more than
we're sitting. You can't tell. Yeah, braces, the full thing. He had a great time. He cast Time Walk a few times.
I mean,
he had multiple consecrated sphinxes in play against a blue-white control player who was not happy about it.
I mean, it's also just a function of if you're at a card store where other people are playing Magic, they're gonna want to talk like every week. The place we play at has a standard event around the same time that we do our Cube event. And, some weeks people will play standard, and other weeks they'll play Cube, and they'll go back and forth. But, like, every week, the standard player is always like, oh, let me see your Cube deck. What did you draft this week? Oh, did you do anything cool with this? Yeah. Oh, man, you got this card? That's so awesome. Like, they still want to, like, hear, like, the war stories, so to speak, about Cube drafting much more so than, like, they even exchange stuff about standard.
I'm not going to say one format is better than the other, but given the option, I would Cube every day of the week.
Oh yeah.
It's not a bias. If you come in and you want to Cube, I'm not going to turn you away because I don't know you. I just I have the best feelings and intentions for people and with people. I've never turned anyone away from a Cube draft. One thing since we have the league and we track results, we do take people's DCI numbers. It gets put through the Planeswalker point system. You get one casual event point.
Your 1 point, and then now you'll be earning TSG points.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be physical points that are handed out with points on them.
And again, talking again with Norbert's asking about having lost cards in the... Oh my gosh, we're coming up on 6 years of cubing. I've only lost 2 cards ever.
Really?
Yeah.
What were they?
One was a Ponder that I think we found like weeks later got mangled by a chair, and one was on the cruise. I lost a Meyerbot, and those were things that were just like legitimately lost.
Yeah. Because I don't remember either of those things.
No, nothing has ever been maliciously lost, and again, to me, it's just one of those things where you're coming to hang out and have fun with people and you want to play Magic. Like, and I mean, it's a social aspect that you just want to come and play. And
for the most part, too,
maybe I've been lucky. Maybe this happens to more people. But
I think it's also a function of where we are. I mean, we're not in New York. We're not in San Francisco. I mean,
I don't think that matters.
No, I think that the community for Magic is relatively because it's smaller. Everyone knows each other.
Yeah, but that's just
for the
Magic
most part.
in general.
But I feel like there's a lot of people who they don't want to ever get ostracized from the Magic people that they know because it's like it's so like say someone stole something right from your cube, like someone you didn't know, someone came in. They would like never be able to show their face amongst anyone in the Magic community in Santa Cruz again, or at the stores, like because the word would get out so much quicker because everyone knows each other.
Touche.
Like that's kind of what I was getting.
If something got lost, I mean, we would find a way to replace it. We would not really. It's not a super concern. But again, in 5.5 years, and again, like it's been a rotating cast. It's been so many different people that have come from campus, from out of town, who just come and play. It's just for fun, and you only take it so seriously as the league kind of goes. And we're still kind of in the first season. It hasn't been super cutthroat with people being competitive about it.
It'll be interesting to see how people change their drafting strategies.
And and not to when we're not playing in a storefront or we're not playing in a DCI sanctioned area, I'm not going to say that the stakes don't get a little bit larger from time to time.
A lot of cookies on the line.
A lot of cookies, yeah, get exchanged.
Piles of cookies.
But it's never like that. I mean, the two major things that kind of brought me to cubing in the first place was the social aspect. It was it was the ability to recreate Magic's past and play Magic with people at any given time. Like I can show up, just like our new friend that came in to the shop this evening. He didn't have a standard deck. He was kind of stranded in a place with his parents. He wanted to play Magic, and he was lucky enough just to show up and be able to cube, and he had a great time. I mean, he didn't win a match, but he didn't need to. He had a great time. Yeah,
he had a great time.
He had a great time.
Participation is its own reward.
Yeah, let's. Could you bring me back to that change list so we can just kind of
sure.
reference? I was going to try to find some of our more controversial topics. You can. They'd rather look at us, Heck.
Oh, okay.
They can look at that on there.
Sure.
They can dual wield, obviously. Same for our reference.
Yeah.
There's no card on the bottom anymore.
I know.
What are we talking about? I don't know anymore.
So
I mean, I could bring up the great show and tell debate of 2012, but I don't know if I want to go there with you.
I'm going to throw this chair.
I'll just submit chat logs somewhere down the line
into evidence. Like this is how much we actually talked about this one card in cube.
Yeah, I tried to defend show and tell for a very long time. I feel like I had to come to bat for it over and over and over again. And I think eventually everyone else just kind of gave up. And that's kind of where we landed on it. I think, like, really,
it no longer became worth the effort.
Let me give you a synopsis of how conversations happen about cards in cube. Eck will usually say, "Man, I really hate X," and I'll be like, "Why do you hate X?" And we're like, "It's no good. It sucks. It's terrible." Like, well, why do you say that? And like, oh, it just never does anything, or it backfires, or like I casted.
For example, Stonewood Invocation. Man, that card's terrible.
Well, okay, fine. Use an example that actually pertains.
Okay, fine. Okay, how about the Wild Nicottle Curdape removal?
Oh, the zoo package?
The zoo package. So, in this last cube change, one of the things I said primarily was that, I didn't like having Wild Nicottle Curdape in the cube because...
I mean... Let's be real. This is just a swan song for Curdape.
I know.
That's all it really is.
But it's it's that these cards are, you either want all of them or you want none of them, and like this is barely even a green card. Like,
yeah, I mean it's not so much a question of like where does it fall on the color pie and where do you kind of like draw the line for these things. To me, it's just more of I have to work so hard,
right,
so often. I mean, yeah, sure. There are times where I go turn 1, stomping ground, this guy, turn 2, white source, and get him. But there's all these other times where that doesn't happen at all.
And it was also like, if you have one, like, if you have Wild Nicottle, you also pretty much, like, resign yourself to also including Curdape and
you will need to change that artwork, because that is outside goal.
Okay, can I do that?
Yeah, you can. See that little picture of a sword?
Oh, really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Again, Curdape was one of those cards that was there from day one, and again, it reminds me so much of the history of Magic. we've played with it for so long, and then probably in the last 3 years, it has been viewed and then put into people's sideboards a lot.
Yeah.
And
Hey, it's a Dave.
yeah, so much for those things.
So like they got
That
cut.
wasn't a great debate, though. I think that for me, that was just like it took a while to kind of put it out to pasture. It was kind of like, you know what? Red aggressive drops are important. White aggressive drops are important. Green aggressive drops, like that's a whole different can of worms. But these cards just aren't cutting it. They seem like they require too many extra steps.
Yeah.
And you can't always do them right out of the gate. So
Right.
we lost those in the last update. That's pretty much what it boils down to.
Yeah. What about
Show and Tell, Eck? What about Show and Tell?
Yeah, Show and Tell.
Did it get cut? It did get cut.
It got cut for opposition.
Which is like a kind of a non sequitur. I feel like it didn't really matter what it came out for. I mean, a card like Show and Tell was a card that was a conversation about, you know, when is it good? When is it not good? Is it good enough? What's the deal? And
What's the deal?
it's one of those cards where a card like Show and Tell, if it's in your opener, and you have, you know, if A plus B leads to awesome C all the time within range of X or whatever, then
Yeah.
it's good.
It's a terrible top deck.
But so are so many cards.
I know.
I hate that. There's such fallacy in that argument that it's such a terrible top.
But it's also, you need a awesome card to go with it extremely early. Like, you need like an Eldrazi or Sunnering Titan or whatever. Like,
But let's elaborate on that. Why does it have to be so early? If, let's say, I had Ulamog in my opener,
yeah.
so I've already mulliganed to 6.
Sweet.
And then on turn 6, I draw Show and Tell. Why is that bad? Maybe I have counter backup with it. I mean, maybe that's a better thing. I think that, you know, the arguments that you were kind of coming to months ago were about, you know, your opponents outclassing you on the Show and Tell.
I mean, it's like Reanimator where they get to fight back automatically.
Yeah, yes, that was a key argument you made. And I kept saying, well, yes, but it's Reanimator and can. It's one card to do the thing you want to do. You just need the target. You don't need the target, the outlet, and the enabler, because it's, you know, it's both those other components jammed into one. And my whole thing was, you know, it's on one card. That's good enough for me. Granted, it doesn't put Planeswalkers into play, which is awkward, and more often than not, I want to just put Karn into play.
Or Nicol Bolas.
Yeah, those cards are going to be better than putting Simic Sky Swallower into play, those kinds of things. So it got a little awkward, it got a little muddy. What ended up happening was we just kind of moved to the Eureka card and freed up a card in blue, which was really key because blue is so...
Blue, anytime you can free up slots in blue, you're stoked.
Yeah, any day you can wake up and be like, that card isn't good enough for blue.
It is a triumph.
Yeah, a stack of cards somewhere else in your collection is just...
Everybody on the bench just got like a little excited.
Super exciting. But yeah, I felt like I championed this card for a really long time. And I still stand by the things I said about it. I still think it does the things that I'm saying it should do.
But I mean, it's also a function of like, how often did Show and Tell get played? Because that's also really what it comes down to. Is like, there should not be, in my opinion, there should not be a lot of cards in Cube, especially because it's a format that like we have full control over. Like, you don't have to have 15th picks all the time in Cube. Like cards that just are routinely on the sideboard.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
again, that bleeds into the topics of things like Solarian Academy. And in a perfect world, you would go through an entire Cube draft. At the end of every pack, you would be almost astonished by what you were being handed 15th. You would be always surprised.
You'd be thrilled.
Wow, I can't... Well, not necessarily, but like more
you
surprised.
could be.
You could be thrilled, but more often than not, you're just surprised. I mean, I feel like we had one of those circumstances a couple weeks ago where there was a 15th pick Inferno Titan.
Yeah.
And everyone at the table was perfectly fine with that being a 15th pick.
Yeah.
It wasn't someone like, oh, I misclicked,
cared.
or what happened. It was definitely like, I don't need that card for the deck I'm drafting. Or
Like the red deck
have
was, the red drafter was really aggressive, so like he didn't want it, and like everybody else like shipped it, and like the guy who got it didn't even play it.
Yeah, well, it was. I mean,
Yeah, it was like whatever.
He already saw that card.
Yeah.
He didn't want it. And so yeah, in a perfect world, if your cube was perfect, any card could be a first pick, any card could be a 15th pick.
Yeah.
And it would all be about, you know, what are the
interactions.
Yeah, what's the
trying to
anatomy of the
do.
pack? What's the anatomy of the draft?
Right.
What strategies do I think I can come together? And you know, it isn't the case. So one of the easiest ways to edit your cube is just, you know, kind of track which cards are the ones that are constantly last.
and that was one of them.
I don't think Show and Tell was constantly last.
It was very often 12th plus.
This is a classic argument that we will get into, though, where it's like, that card's always last, that card's not always last, that card's always last.
You're always last.
I don't think Show and Tell is always last. I don't think it would be last if we put it back all the time. Back in there. It's just, maybe it's too hard of a card for people to evaluate. Maybe if they're drafting your animator, they're not inherently taking blue cards or access to blue mana. Maybe...
Like, but at the same time, like, in regards to Reanimator, I have played reanimation spells in decks that do not necessarily have a vast amount of enabling for them or awesome, huge, giant guys. Like, playing them is just value. Like, especially the ones that could target your opponent's graveyard, like Animate Dead and Dance of the Dead. Like, just being able to, like, use them as, like, get my best guy that you just killed back, even if it's not, like, Gristlebrand or whatever, is sweet. I'm never show and telling, like, a Vengefine into play or whatever. Like,
it's funny, you know, like, you don't even really think that, oh, it puts an enchantment into play. But it's like we just added Form of the Dragon a month or so ago.
Yeah, that's true.
And that is a positive interaction with that. I mean, sure, Eureka puts it into play. Eureka puts all that stuff into play, so it's not as key, but I don't know. I don't think it's the constant left behind that you keep making it out to be.
I think take a poll. We'll take a vote next time.
You can take a vote, take a poll. I mean, people can
chime in,
spout off one way or the other. Show and tell or no and tell.
No and tell.
One way or the other. Either works for me.
Yeah.
That was a big point of contention, though.
Yeah.
I mean, opposition again. Like the cards that it came in or out for are really kind of negligible. Opposition just explores different territory in the queue.
It enables different things, and it makes other decks interesting or more prevalent. Like, you know, obviously, you know, Deranged Hermits in queue.
It's in no way a fun card.
And it's fun for
very few
it's fun for you if you have it.
Very few people are having fun with opposition. On
what 50% of the people involved in an opposition-based game are having
Sterling fun. He drafted Bant Opposition 2 weeks ago.
I know.
He 0-3'd the draft.
That's not opposition's fault, sir.
It's not opposition's fault.
No, unfortunately,
we need more activations of Gavney Township and less activations of Squirrel Nest.
Yeah, something like that.
I can't make any defense for it.
So one of the other conversations we had with this last update too.
I mean, we could just go to Gatecrash and talk about the Gatecrash changes since we've got a little more time here.
What were the Gatecrash changes? Let's see.
Well, usually we start at the top.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. So.
Oh, we had Gideon.
Oh yeah, Gideon,
which you might not be championing these days.
I am not a champion of his brand of justice. Although, I mean, full disclosure, I drafted Gideon. I played him in a deck. I ultimated him and then lost that game.
See, there's a great cube story.
Like, yeah, that's a cube story that makes me look horrible.
I feel like that's got to be some kind of achievement.
It should be. God. Like,
so what happened?
So I ultimate Gideon.
Now, can we talk about like getting there? Like, how did you get to ultimating Gideon? That being mediocre at best.
So,
and then
my opponent was playing like a black-red, like, there's a lot of burn, it had like a fair amount of reach, but it was kind of like a mid-rangey, it wasn't like super aggressive, but it wasn't like in bombs.
Alright, so we know a little bit about your opponent's deck. Let's break down.
I'm in white-green, like,
your creatures.
Token-making Gavney Township.
Yeah, your deck was good that week.
I thought that deck was sweet.
You 3-0'd that pot, I think.
No.
Oh, you lost to Vin's blue back.
I lost to, Vin had a very good deck. But, so I
could have 3-0'd with this deck.
I had Gideon in my deck.
So you have a green-white creatures deck, you're not playing control, you're not a moat deck,
No.
you're not a counterspell deck, you're not a spot removal, all their stuff, have a Gideon and play kind of deck.
No. So I have Gideon, and my opponent is playing black-red, and he is very, like, you know, I'm a bit slow out of the gate. He has some good stuff early, powerful stuff. He gets me like relatively low on life, but I'm able to stabilize and then play Gideon. And
is there like just a ground stall?
Yeah, like I have a bunch of stuff. I had Spike Weaver and Contagion Clasp, so I was proliferate fogging.
Okay, so that was happening.
So that's like filthy already.
I guess.
Like, I mean,
as filthy as
filthy as fogging every turn can possibly be.
Andrew Gideon's getting bigger faster.
I know. It was so. I'm like ticking Gideon up. There's no way he can get in. Like he blocks whatever. Like
all right, let's get to the meat of the story.
So I ultimate Gideon because I feel I get him up to like 19 counters and blow him. And
sounds like you. Go on.
Yeah. So remove all permanents. My opponent untaps and plays Mazavith as his
play.
And I also have no cards in hand because he mind twisted me.
Okay.
Leading up to this.
Okay.
So I have no he played like a flyer or something, so I had to like.
All right. The story could end there. He just outdrew you from that point.
He played. Yeah. He played Mazavith.
Well, how many other planeswalkers and cubes? How many of other ultimates don't end the game? I mean, part of the problem is like how
Speaker.
He should probably end the game.
I mean, hopefully.
Overrun? Why would you not be using it unless you're doing it to win the game?
But I mean, like, it's so disruptible. Like, if they have kill, if they have bounce.
Yeah, but the point is that you do it with the intent to win the game.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like the Stone Lock of the Century, like,
no, it's
10 ball you
Stone Cold
when you're at 9.
Yeah. I mean, it's no Karn. Like, Karn pretty severe against that game.
So, what we learned from this set of circumstances...
Exiling all permanents other than your Planeswalker, not always good enough.
Not always the luck. Either way, this guy's like a 5/5 for 4. He's like another Obsidet.
Yeah,
he's like another.
He's just hard to kill.
Yeah,
like
I still think he's a fine card.
He's fine.
Since you somehow managed to find this
corner
case where you ended up in a board stall with Proliferate, Spikeweaver, blow up the world, lose to Mazavith.
He's fine. I just think that like he's pretty vanilla, if that makes any sense, as a planeswalker. Like, he's a guy that attacks and doesn't take damage, and he's hard to deal with removal. But like,
whatever. Let's move on.
All right. So we've also got what else went in?
Frontline Medic.
Frontline Medic. Yeah.
Tis a fine card.
Have you yet to see it on? I've yet to draft it. Yet to see it.
That's not true. You played it against me in the same deck you had Gideon.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that guy.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't do anything. What else is new?
Yeah, we made just a ton of changes. That
this is a non-standard amount of changes.
This is again.
Shredzik went in.
That's not a Gatecrash card, but yes.
We changed both at the same time.
No. We adjusted
we adjusted
color
stuff,
section.
Skullcrack.
Meh. It's a fine card. I mean, if you see what it's replaced, that one's pretty easy.
It had it has successfully prevented the gaining of life.
Good. As well it should.
Yeah.
It should.
It is on point.
Good. Lava Spike Plus.
Slaughterhorn.
We touched briefly on the Slaughterhorn Gorklan Chainwalker interactions. Again, I think in a longer kind of sample, we're going to find those cards are even better. I mean, look what it does. It's a combat trick, or it's a guy. It's a 3-power guy for 3. That's everything I want to be doing. I don't think I'm asking too much of this card.
No.
I
mean, it's fine. I just haven't seen it yet. Like, I don't really have any experience.
And maybe it's innocuous to the point where you don't really notice it enough, but I think it's doing what it needs to do.
Couple key runes.
Yeah, talking about broken cycles, about whether or not to break cycles, what ones to include. Ultimately, with both sets of guilds out, we kind of landed on 8 overall. The lands do need to die. I am very sad that Desolation Angel got cut.
Talk about a 15th pick. That card. Oh, man.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to side with Eck on this one.
No luck.
Desolation Angel was a card
only hate.
Far too often no one was picking.
Also new, Duskmantle Seer, who is awesome.
He is pretty boss. That
guy's a boss.
Yeah, remember those days when we used to play Morori or whatever that card was?
Moroi? Yeah. Get out of here. Yeah. He's even a vampire, too.
Yeah, he is.
Just strict upgrade.
Hello, Nocturnus. Get back in my life.
Yeah.
But to finish the feelings on key runes, obviously with Cube, it's one of those circumstances where you don't have to run a whole cycle when you have cycles, and that kind of confuses people a lot. I'm surprised at how many people are like, well, you don't run the whole cycle? Why do you not run the whole cycle? It's like, I don't run the whole cycle of commands from Lorwyn. I don't run the whole cycle of packs from Future Sight. I mean, you got to get all uppity about some mana rocks that turn into creatures. Like, what's your problem?
I think it's just kind of an OCD thing for people. Like, they want the full cycles.
The irony is that everyone clearly doesn't run full cycles in Cube, and that's the point of Cube. You're playing with the good ones.
Right.
You're not laughing at Intervention Pact, being like, why do you exist?
Pact of the Titan not getting in there.
Pact of the Titan was in the Cube
for like 1.5 minutes.
That was fun. Fun.
Literally like 2 whole matches with that card.
Definitely ambushed somebody once in its lifetime.
And then immediately, like once it did its job, it got cut.
Yeah.
So Gorklay Rampager, as we already mentioned, he's a boss.
Self-explanatory. Orzhov Charm.
Ghost Dad.
Ghost Dad. I have not really played with it yet, but it definitely seems like the kind of thing that Black-White wants to be doing.
I've seen it in action. I didn't play against it. I spectated a match that had it. It was doing work.
Yeah.
Like that card's sweet.
Black-White is an awkward color combination to work with, just because it wants card advantage and it has a hard time finding it.
Yeah, you're Sign in Blood and...
When you add black and white together, you have like all the best 1-for-1 removal in the Magic between like Oblivion Rings and Swords to Plowshares and Tear variants, but you just don't have a lot of, okay, well, I'm going to draw 3, or cards that act as virtual card advantage to draw more cards. You have a lot of the best 1-for-1s, and you're playing with the 2 colors that are the most color intensive for their own spells.
Like the best you can do for a card on Black-White is Concentrate that loses you 3 life.
Oh yeah, Ancient Craving is pretty key for the Black-White control deck.
But like that's it. Like it's that and Sign in Blood, which is also really.
I don't even think Sign in Blood is in Cube.
Oh, it's not?
I don't think it is.
Really?
It probably just became like Icequake or something.
Yeah, whatever.
Either way, yeah, the stuff in Black-White is so hard to cast so often. Like if you have to have like Scrubland, Fetid Heath, and then you have to have all the cards that do things other than kill that guy. Kill that other guy. Kill that other guy.
Fetid Heath enables that like entire deck.
Right.
Like that's the most important card for Black-White. I feel
it's awkward. Yeah. There's no 2-color combination in Cube where I need the dual lands more than when I'm playing Black-White.
That's certainly true.
And which is awkward because you want to take all the other cards.
Orzhov Charm, pretty sweet. Haven't really seen it in action yet.
This was one that I talked a lot on Twitter about because we just weren't sure how to evaluate it. And it was one of those things where it's like, well, would you play Unsummoned Vendetta? Is that good enough on its own for black and white mana?
Will the third ability ever happen?
Right. I still don't know. Getting back Mother Runes seems really cool. Getting back Weathered
Figure Destiny?
Wayfarer. Yeah, I guess. These are things that could happen. There's a non-zero...
It's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, there's a non-zero chance these things could happen.
White Red got the most love. Boros Charm...
Eck is yelling about it. He's that much...
I'm so excited.
You are very interested.
Boros Charm is awesome.
It's not even worth talking about. It's just so obvious. These cards are all very good.
Sella went in. Aurelia's Fury.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in action yet?
I cast it for 15 the other day, remember? With the assistance of Dark Ritual and that weird control deck.
That was a weird deck. That was a weird day. Fire Main Avenger. Also sweet.
Phantom monsters that do stuff are always fun.
Phantom monsters that cast Lightning Healers are even better.
Yep.
Simic Charm. Also sweet.
That is a card that I don't even think I've seen anyone cast yet.
I've cast it.
And?
It's sweet.
Okay, good. Well, it's meant to be. I just, haven't had...
I think I had it in a deck, and I drew it twice and used a different mode both times. Both times it was good.
We can stop on Reckoner. It's okay. In Cube, Reckoner...
There's so much non-damage based removal in Cube.
Yeah. And there's so many times where it's just like a 3/3 unblockable, which is fine. There's a lot of times where it just doesn't impact anything at all.
Its mana is so bad also.
Boros is a thing. Playing red and white cards is a thing. It's not like it's not a thing.
I mean, it's a thing. It's just like, do you really need to it's not... Is that card good enough to require that casting cost in Cube specifically? And I would say no.
No, I mean, again, I will give credit to this card being better than when I saw it in what I felt like was a vacuum, evaluating for Cube on minute 1.
Yeah.
Yes, it is better than that. being a 3-3 for 3 is better than Spitmare.
That's it. Like, a lot of people are very high on Reckoner because of the Pro Tour and Standard, and I think that if Path of Exile or Service to Plowshares, more just straight up removal for it was legal, I don't think Boros Reckoner would have had nearly the impact it did. I mean, Abrupt Decay gets it in Standard, but there weren't a ton of people playing that, and that was like kind of it. So it really just shined very well. And like in Cube, there are just so many cards that just like whatever, I don't care.
Right, and again, you have to understand that, and this was pointed out in the chat actually, that my cube is not like playing the everyday MTGO cube.
No.
Where in the everyday MTGO cube, creature combat is not only happening all the time; it's the main way to win. We had at least one match with the Thalia Drowned Yard win today. Again, like oathing, last week I oathed into, what were my targets?
Iona?
Iona was one of them. I think it was like Iona, Inferno Titan, Inkwell Leviathan, Elishnorn.
Yeah, that'll do. Not interactive, really.
Yeah, so cards like Boros Reckoner just aren't going to do as much for you. As for a card like Fireman Angel, if that's what you kind of want to like match it up to or compare it to in these circumstances, Fireman Angel in the creature-on-creature decks is going to do more, and in a vacuum, having evasion is going to do more. You're not running Boros Reckoner into Wall Roots or something.
And like even against like, if you're playing against control decks, like Fireman, because Fireman can go to the phase.
Oh yeah, I can go to the phase.
So like you can just basically hit him for 6 with your guy.
Yeah,
like, that's fine.
All of a sudden, those 1/1 tokens that you got off of insert thing that makes tokens here just got way better.
Are useful.
Yeah. All right. Let's. What else is on that list?
That was it. There are no other. What's it called? No other.
So you don't even want to show me the list.
No other Gatecrash cards.
No other Gatecrash. That's the bottom of the Gatecrash.
Yes.
And again, that was, to me, that was a product of. We were really holding out for this set to be the next Return to Ravnica. We expected it to be the other side of the coin. Actually, that makes it sound like it could be worse. The other half of the pie that makes up the whole of Ravnica that we want to eat the pie.
That was very convoluted.
Yes, it was. It was. So I really feel like we spent a lot of winter holding out on this set, like putting a lot of energy and effort into waiting for it to happen.
And like looking at all the cards, like especially in white and red, you're like, oh, Captain's Maneuver. Your time is coming up here.
We got there. Like it's not like I'm not saying it didn't deliver in that regard. It just wasn't the Return to Ravnica kind of set, and it almost kind of took a little while for that to sink in. Where, it took a while.
Yeah.
Ooh, we're talking about ranking cards in the best of Boros ever printed.
Huh.
That's something we were doing on Twitter for a little while, and then there's a lot of talk that we will do within the group about taking cards of guilds or color combinations and kind of laying out the top 5, the top 10, the top 20, and trying to figure out which ones go into Cube. Yeah, I mean, Celestia and Rakdos have surprisingly deep pools to choose from.
Because they've been printing green, white, and or black, red cards like forever.
So doesn't mean they're good.
Yeah,
Ghostly Flame.
I know. But what I'm saying is there are just such a larger pool to draw from that like the odds of some of them being hits throughout the years is so much higher.
Stronghold. Slayer Stronghold. Sorry, I was reading Norbert's chat here. So actually, I guess I can kind of
over Stronghold.
I can kind of interject that lands and hybrid cards most specifically, in this last update kind of got moved. Up until this update in my own cube, hybrid cards were treated as though they were the gold cards of any particular color combination. So actually, that would mean that Boros Reckoner could be put into the white section or the red section of cube.
Depending on where needs arise.
Right, and that is actually very possible. Looking longer term, 3-drops for either of those colors could be helped. Like, for example...
Fine, right?
Yeah, fine anywhere. Yeah. It's a fine
But I'm saying, I think, red needs 3-drops, I think.
Yeah. So that being said, let's say, for example, Frontline Medic just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
We don't have that much battalion going on, which would also mean the Fire Main Avenger probably isn't very good. Well, let's say, those expel circumstances just never come up. They're too easy to play around. They don't do anything for you. We could switch it out to Boros Reckoner. And one of the things I really liked about moving the hybrid mana cards out of gold and into monocolor sections was it kind of like increased the reach of certain colors that may be weaker. So anytime that we could add a hybrid black card to a different color was really exciting, because it felt like black was getting a bonus card in Cube without really changing the metrics at all, which is really exciting. You know, a card like Deathrite Shaman, which currently lives in the green section of the Cube, I've drafted it in 2 mono black decks, and it's been very good as being a pseudo Grim Lavamancer.
Or like Stone Cavalier is like one of the best black creatures. Like he's
I think he lives in the white section now because we can, and it's this little bit of a cheat with the numbers to try to kind of extend one way or another for those colors, which has worked out well. So you know, to Boros Reckoner fans or champions of the card, it is not lost on us forever. It could find its way into the Cube.
Certainly.
Yeah. Again, 700.
Never say never.
700 freaking cards.
I know.
Really? You want to never say never to show and tell?
Hmm?
You want to never say never to show and tell?
It might come back.
Yeah. Good. Might come back.
I have an open mind.
Good. I like it. Well, it's midnight Pacific here. This was going to be our test run tonight. Make sure that we didn't look too saturated in the light. To make sure we fit in frame. To make sure the card pop-ups worked. Thank the tens of people for coming out at this hour.
Literally dozens.
To check this out on a whim. This was supposed to be just kind of a bit of a test section. So I'm really glad... A test session. So I'm really glad we're able to make it work. You know, coming down the line, if we can come back and do this more often. We like the open forum. We'll try to keep the chat a little more live so that we can be more interactive with people, take questions, add people in, and make it more exciting that way. Again, make the lighting better, make everything about it better. And
we're gonna also, this will be uploaded. I'm gonna put the video on YouTube and pull the audio, and it'll be a podcast as well. So in the future, you know, there'll be multiple sources. You know, if one in the morning doesn't work for everybody, there'll be ways to get at it. Yeah,
I mean, again, if you're interested in more Cube in your life, more talk about it, more feelings strongly about it.
We can also draft once the Cube comes back on Moto.
True. I mean, we could actually play Magic, as I'm sure.
Magic.
2 to 3 of you might be interested in that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't really
playing
know
Magic,
either. No one has ever wanted me to do that.
I just want to talk about it. I don't want to play.
So that being said, we do plan to have a podcast version. Eck is very tech savvy. He's going to make that RSS feed shit happen, so you can find it.
All right, no pressure.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot we can swear as much as we want to.
Yeah, it's the internet.
I feel like we should just go out a blaze of shitty glory, but
you can do whatever you like. This is America.
I should have prepared a speech. It is America.
All right.
Unfortunately. Well, numbers increase in the view window as soon as we start going away from the PG audience.
It's a late night crowd.
It is. I don't have a really good way to wrap it up tonight, again, because this was a bit of a test run. I wasn't sure we were going to get. But, again, thank everyone for showing up tonight, especially when we weren't sure this was even going to work. But the plan is to make a regular podcast of it, make it interactive, make it available in the various forms you could get it.
You can also, if anyone has questions, comments, things they'd like to see, things they want to see, any, whatever, dislikes, you can leave me a message on Twitch. I'm on Reddit under the same username, Twitter. We're easy to get along.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Again, I'm sure Eck will set up some kind of when all the things come together in one place. What's that called?
Shopping mall.
We'll kind of make one hub for everything for information. Because I know right now you can get a hold of me on Twitter pretty much 24/7. My other social media is very open, but in the future, assuming that we get a chance to kind of make this a concise thing and make it interactive the way we want to, we'll have a home for it. And yeah, I mean, Cube is what I love. I mean, literally for the past 6 years, it has been what has tied me to Magic.
It's pretty much the only Magic I play anymore, other than Winston drafting Mirrodin Besiege over and over.
Right, that's a hobby. Yeah, this is what I love about this game, and this is what I know will never go away. As much as I am or am not involved in Magic in any other way, cubing is what I love, and that's where I want to be. So if you guys are interested in it, I know Kyle has been asking me for picks. I'm bad about that. I apologize. Again, literally, the box is right here. So heavy.
It's very heavy.
So heavy. So, again, we'll do what we can. Any other parting words?
No, I mean, I'm glad we finally decided to sit down and actually record this.
Yeah. Again, this as League picks up, as sets come out, we'll have a lot more to kind of argue about. I don't want you to get the impression that we like each other, because most of these conversations...
It's a blood feud.
Yeah. Again, we're going to find the archives of the chat logs, and they include other people too, where it's like, well, what do you think about
airing
this?
dirty lies.
What do you think? What do you think about this card? That card is fucking terrible. Why would you ever play this card?
I'm also looking forward to doing this when Dragon's Waste comes out, because then we can have these discussions that we were trying to recap. We can do them live.
Yeah.
Like, we can put the debate
as spoilers come up.
Yes.
But there's so much time. I mean, what we've learned from really kind of expanding recently is that we could change 40 cards in the next month without there being a new set release, have just cause to do so, and still have it be a lively debate about whether or not things should be included, whether or not it was right, it was wrong, how it's going to impact things. Again, I think that the Oversold Cemetery, Oath of Ghouls kind of the mini package has really worked out for us. And again, if you look at some of the other changes that came up in this last one, we're trying out new things, exploring new areas. Again, adding like the Increasing Confusion, Drown Yard, Mill package. I was running Sands of Delirium for a while. It just wasn't doing enough. I felt like these cards kind of came at things from a slightly different angle. They've been really well received.
Increasing Confusion is sweet.
Increasing Confusion is sweet.
That one is a haymaker.
Yeah, if I want to leave on a sweet cube story from the most recent past, add an Increasing Confusion to cube. Played against a guy where I was mono black, and I went Necro. He Increasing Confusions my entire library without reading Necro, and he's very confused as to when I ask if I can then take my turn, because he's ready to like pick up his cards, and I'm like, can I go now? So I got to take my turn. I play Oath of Ghouls. So sure, I can't draw anything else. My library is pretty much...
You just get to like DT your library return with Oath of Ghouls.
Effectively. From there, it was like, okay, I will get back Necrotal, I'll kill your guy. Okay, I'll get back. I'll get back this guy. I'll get back.
That was a sweet. I remember I walked over that match and I was just like, "What in the hell is going on?"
That was a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it.
So we'll be back next week to talk about this again. We'll get some new topics. Hopefully, have it cleaned up a little bit.
I will try to tweet about it during the week and remind people. Again, this was spur of the second that we were able to take what we were working on and bring it together. So
hopefully we'll have a little more lead up. I'll make a thread on Reddit and a little earlier than like 5 seconds before we started.
Ramp it up, and we'll go from there. So.